So welcome to the England preview on the Shiny Side podcast. World Cup's now around the corner, and once the World Cup starts, we'll be doing daily podcasts after every game with a review of the game and also a preview of the game coming up the next day. But today, to do the review of England, we have with us Qazi Umair Ali, who a lot of you may have seen on TV across various cricket shows. He's an avid cricket follower, and he is also my tip for chairman PCB within the next 10 to 15 years. So you heard it here first. How are you doing, Qazi?
Thank you for the wonderful introduction, Faris. Pleasure to be here on your podcast and look forward to attending many more and following the channel throughout the World Cup.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So World Cup now is what, 2 days away. Pakistan just finished their second. So we're recording this right after Pakistan finished their second warm-up. How do you how do you see the tournament overall and Pakistan for that matter? How is it looking?
People often talk about Pakistan being the X factor. I feel year tournament when we really are an X factor team, primarily for the reason that if you look across all the 10 teams, we're the only ones who don't go and play IPL in India. We're the only ones who haven't played in India for like a decade now. Yeah. So if, it can work both ways. I hopefully for our sake, it'll work in our favor. But these Pakistani bowlers, the spinners, batsmen, they don't know the conditions over there. Although, yes, Shadab made a comment day before yesterday saying all the wickets are like Pindi. But even if you take it in jest, the point is that they don't know the conditions. The teams playing don't know. And so that X factor could, perhaps either work in our favor or work against us. And I'm dearly hoping it works in our favor. But that, I think, is always, insofar as Pakistan is concerned, there's always hope. But let's hope for the best.
Very good point, because I think pre-IPL, our conditions were probably closest to India. So we would have an advantage to all the other teams. But now everybody else pretty much plays there, except for us.
Exactly. So I think and coming to today's topic as well about the English team, I'll just start off by saying right now they're obviously going in as favorites. They're defending the title. But if you look at their current lineup, they are the ones with the most players playing in the IPL. It's a power-packed house right now. They exactly know the conditions. They know how to bat. They know, when the lights come on, how the ball will react. Because let's face it, you've been watching cricket for, so many years. India mein ball swings in the first 4, 5, 6 overs if you've got swing bowlers. Now we have maybe Shaheen who's swinging the ball right now. No one else is.
If you look at I think what's strange about this World Cup is because so few teams have played ODIs in the last 4 years, because T20 took a lot of focus. And a lot of the ones who did, like England, weren't even playing their first 10 sides, right? So England, last 14 games, they won 7 and they've lost 7, which doesn't seem like a great record. But the reality is they weren't playing their first 11 in most of those games. So if you quick look at the record suggests, if you look at the batsmen and the all-rounders, basically all of them, except for Root and Malan, I have strike rates above 100. Malan is also striking at 97. Root is the only one at 86, and even his recent strike rate is in the 90s. As a reference point, none of our top 6 guys have a strike rate with a 95 or higher. So that's literally the big difference here.
I would judge Malan on his current form, and the recent concluded series against New Zealand, he was an absolute top form. Yeah. His if you look at his strike rate for that series, he was absolutely untouchable. He was the way he was connecting with the ball. I think he's a force to reckon with. Not to forget Johnny Bairstow, always been a handful. I think even if you look at and you mentioned this earlier, that there was not enough one-day cricket being played, but the pace at which the Ashes was played this year was no less. Yeah. It was not Test cricket at its in its traditional form. If rain hadn't interfered, all 5 matches would have had an outcome.
Agreed.
And a lot of credit to Johnny Bairstow for that, and Ben Stokes as well. These guys just the ante up, and so with Butler, Brooke, Stokes, Malan, Root, Bairstow, I think they've got a formidable lineup.
Yeah. I think if I just go down the lineup, right, I think it looks like, so I think on the bowling side, I feel like Adil Rashid and Wood are super strong. There is a bit of a question mark around how effective Wokes will be in India. Having said that, he's played about 10, 15 odd games. Averages is the same as it is otherwise. So you would think with the new ball, he would probably be pretty effective. And then they have guys like Reece Topley, David Willey, who can bring that left arm angle in. So they have quite a varied bowling attack. I guess the only questions they have are around the fitness of. So Adil Rashid and Mark Wood were both out injured recently. Wood still hasn't played the game for the last, I think, international game for the last few months. He played warm up recently, but yeah. So
and I mean, you see, insofar as the bowling is concerned, Adil Rashid is a top class spinner, tried and tested at all levels. Mark Wood, I think, as their express paceman, he's the one who's coming in with the same pace as Haris Rauf, say, comparatively in Pakistan. But I think the X factor in this bowling lineup will be Atkinson. If you see the way he bowled in those in the recently concluded England New Zealand series, I think this guy will be a bit of a surprise here in India. No one has seen him; they haven't played him, and he generates a bit of. If you remember Abdul Razak in his early days, he was pretty nippy. You didn't expect the guy to be so nippy, and then all of a sudden you'd expect him. He'd come in with pace. This guy has that X factor, and so yes, ideally England would have wanted to go with Jofra Archer, first choice bowler, no two ways about it. But apart from, I think this is the pace bowling is the only slightly weak link that England may have, but they overcompensated, easily in their batting.
I think if everyone stays fit, they have a pretty good side. I think the challenge comes in a little bit if somebody is like misses a game or two. But even then, I feel like Wood will play normally, and then they'll have Atkinson. So Wood won't play all the games because of his fitness issues. So that's probably where Atkinson will get lots of games in the middle. And in the end, who knows? When the big games come, they could play them both together also.
Yeah, I agree. You see, England have always been, careful about managing their fast bowlers. Wood is most certainly a bowler that you can't play all 9 games on. You've got to give him 2 games, give him a rest, then play. So the important fixtures like the one against Pakistan, the last one, depending on the situation, is then how we are placed and how England is. I think they'd probably save him for the big ones like the one against South Africa, Sri Lanka, India. I think those are the matches he would focus on. And another point that we perhaps need to focus on, perhaps England may feel short on, is that they only have one quality spinner, and that's Adil Rashid. The new leg spin, the kid who debuted in the Pakistan series as well. What's his name? Rehan Shah.
The Asian origin kid. Yes, Rehan Ahmed.
Yeah. Rehan Ahmed, there you go. So he, I think, should have been included in the side. I think these are subcontinent wickets. After all, after the first innings, there is always a rough. That guy spins the ball a considerable, length. So maybe he could have been used in these or tested in games like Afghanistan, etc., along with Adil Rashid to see if he's fit for the future.
So yeah, let's look at the fixtures list, right? So England have a bit of a unusual draw where they, in their own words, they say that 3 of the 4 toughest games are right at the end. So India, Australia, and Pakistan are 3 of the last 4 games. So I think after New Zealand, they play the so-called relatively weaker sides in the draw. And I think, like you said, but they probably will hope by the time they get to the last 3, they will be very close to qualifying if not already qualified. So by the time they play us, there's quite a good chance they would have qualified anyway.
They would have qualified.
Yeah.
Or we probably would need to beat them.
Yeah. Knowing us, we would need to be there and to get some run rate in order.
Like comparing ourselves to the 92 scenario.
Yeah. So moving on to the 11. So I put up these. So you and I had a slightly different view on what the 11 will be. And I put our 11s up. If you look at our 11s, we pretty much have, there's 3 differences here. I've gone for Livingston, you've gone for Brook. I've gone for Moeen, you've gone for Curran. And I've gone for Topley, you've gone for Atkinson. So I quickly could mention why I've got this team. The other rest is self-explanatory. So I think Livingston, again, is brilliant form. He scored 100 at number 6. And I feel like they really value his spin, which is he bowls both leg spin and off spin. So along with Adil, they really want him for backup. And at number 6, they feel like he's the attacking option. So I think he'll be at 6. Moeen over Curran to start with because they're playing New Zealand. But if they were playing a team like India, I may have switched around Moeen with Curran. So I think it depends on who you're playing. If they're playing an Asian side, I may switch Moeen with Curran, but I would start with Moeen. And I think Topley's generally been, I think the left arm angle is probably important along with Wood. And I think he's a good with the new ball, decent record recently as well. So I think that's what I think they will and they should go with. And clearly you have 3 differences from me. So please.
My reasons for one selecting Curran were because of his IPL experience. He's played in India. He has considerable experience of bowling with the IPL team he plays for. and he mixes his balls really well.
Yeah.
He doesn't bowl extra space as it is, but he's a good mixer of, off cutters, leg cutters, slower balls, and he understands the lengths that need to be bowled in the death overs in India. These grounds are small grounds. There's not much room for margin here. So I had selected Karan on current form over Moin for that reason, because has experience over playing the IPL in India, so he would perhaps be a better fit in my opinion.
Yeah.
Brook, I went over Livingstone for the simple reason that when I talk about this England team keeping the run rate up, Brook is a great, and he doesn't have to be number 6. He can be easily shifted around between through Root and Butler. It can be anywhere between 3 or 4, but he has that uncanny ability to keep the ante up. He's a keen striker of the ball. He can, and these are small grounds in India. So once you have someone like Brook who comes in, scores a quick 50, 60 odd runs of 30, 40 odd balls, it completely changes the complexion. But yes, I would agree to the extent that yes, he could be switched around with Livingstone depending on who they're playing and what stage they're at.
Yeah.
In so far as the inclusion, why I didn't include Moin right now is that Moin, as far as I'm concerned, is he's struggled in the last 6 months. He didn't have a great Ashes. There was a lot of expectations on him to. He actually came out of retirement for the Ashes, and then he didn't live up to those expectations. Then he wasn't any. He didn't perform as such in the England and in the New Zealand series either. So he's a bit off color. He's, for me right now, what Pakistan is, facing with Fakhar Zaman even today, didn't get scored, right? And so because he's struggling on form, it is a World Cup. You need to get your 11 sorted in the first few matches. So you stick to that. Yes, barring an injury, you continue with that general side, barring a change here or there, depending on the wicket. And this is why I said, if they had Moin in the team, maybe Rehan would have been a good inclusion, because if you're going to go for spin, then you would have had 2 full-time spinners in Rashid and Rehan, and then Vokes, Board, Topley, or Atkinson, whatever it is, either one of those, depending on the conditions, played them. Because like you said, the important matches are the last 4 matches. So by then, I would have actually wanted my 4 or my top 11 sorted by then.
Yeah.
I understand, England is defending and they back themselves, but it's a World Cup. You never know. Funny things happen. But
And
it's a
I
surprise
guess
on Friday as well.
before we, wrap up, you've already made your prediction, right? So you said England. You see England in the final. I think my prediction is same. It'd be a big sighting for England. Not making it to the final would be underachievement for sure, given the side they have. And also keep in mind that 8 of the first 11 players we just saw, 8 of them were also there in the side that won the World Cup last time around. So this is essentially, for a lot of these guys, this is like the last one, right? This is the last major World Cup, and they probably won't be there 4 years from now. So it's their chance to kind of cement their legacy, and we probably have a very, very different ODI team for England going after this.
Yeah, that's true. There'll be considerable changes. There'll be a newfound side. Most certainly, Ben Stokes won't return after this. I think this will be his last hurrah, and so far as at least the World Cup is concerned, and most certainly 50 over games as well. But more than the fact that 8 of the same players are playing, you look at their current form, look at their form over the last 4 years. It's not a side which has sort of gone down. It's not a side which has consistently lost. Yes, they don't have a great record in the last 7 months, but look at it over the 4 years.
Yeah.
They came to Pakistan. They gave us a thrashing in the test series. Then, if you remember, they came back for the 7-match T20 series. They thrashed in
Well, that was 4-3 though, so I guess it wasn't a thrashing, but they won, yeah.
You see, they won. They didn't have trouble, and this is their great advantage. They're a side who keeps recovering, who keeps at it. Even if you look at the T20 World Cup that was held last year, the final wasn't an issue for them, and they had been consistent throughout the tournament.
Yeah.
They're
the form team these days. There's no doubt about it.
So, no, don't worry about it. Like I said, yeah, England, India on current form, but if that X factor of Pakistan plays in, which it usually does, hopefully it will, we should be okay. And maybe.
So just before we wrap up, there's a question which you need to answer. It's a quiz question, and so you can read the question. It's on the screen. But in his biography, Mark Wood talks about his fear of flying, and he mentions one of his teammates often holds his hands to make him feel better when he's very nervous. So the question you have to answer is, which of the teammates is the one who holds his hand, and the choices are there on the screen for you. So
I'm going to go with... Which other was I'm going to go with Butler.
I'm not going to ask what made you make that guess. The answer is Chris Wokes.
Oh, really?
And the explanation is very simple. When they do these flights, they sit in alphabetical order.
Oh, okay.
So Wokes ends up sitting next to him. But in his book, he talks about how when he's scared, Wokes is such a good guy. He actually holds his hand and makes him feel better, etc., etc. So,
like sitting in a MCT exam question, who's sitting.
But good stuff. Thank you, Qazi, for being on the show. This was good.
Welcome.
Hopefully, we'll see you more frequently during the World Cup as the tournament goes on. And yeah, we'll take it from there. And for our audience, please, if you like the video, please like it and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And Qazi, we will see you soon.
Thank you. Look forward to it. Lovely being here. Thank you. Bye-bye.